Yeah, and we live. What's going on Facebook? What's going on YouTube? This is the Genesis Block. I am your boy Big Mar, man. It's so good to be with you here this Monday morning at 11 a.m. Man, I look forward to the Genesis Block, man. I love getting in the room with all of these wonderful, bright minds. It's about 11:08 on June the 21st, this Monday. Make sure y'all, everybody out there in YouTube and Facebook land, y'all share this. Make sure y'all get this out to everybody. But yeah, man, there's been some incredible news as of late, man. We coming off of the huge Bitcoin conference in Miami, and we coming off of El Salvador looking at Bitcoin as legal tender. But there's a couple of news stories that I wanted to talk about. We had a room on this last week. One of the rooms we had was talking about how because El Salvador accepted Bitcoin as legal tender, that now Bitcoin has to be accepted by the IMF based on the charter from 1944. So that's a very interesting storyline. And then I think the bigger storyline that's out right now is that 90% of the Chinese mining power has been knocked offline. They've banned mining in China. And so the network is dealing with that right now as we speak. We're also seeing some pullback in the price, probably because of that type of FUD and that kind of news. So yeah, man, I wanted to make sure we talked about that. Were there any other news stories that you guys heard of that were probably pretty big for the space? If not, we'll go in and start talking about these things, man. So yeah, welcome this morning. I know my man Bitcoin Zay, he's been growing and growing as far as the gentleman of crypto goes. So shout out to him and my man King Bless over there for holding it down. I see their channel is growing and picking up. It's just dope. It's dope in the mug. Mondays are for education. If you don't get over to the gentleman of crypto at 10 o'clock, you're missing out on the good news stories. But to the panel, man, what do y'all think about this? What's going? Because truthfully, we can't even say the Chinese news is FUD because it's real, right? Like a lot of the mining power is being knocked off of the network right now from China. I think I'm gonna just give my opinion. I think it's a good thing because what it's going to do is show the resilience and the anti-fragility of the Bitcoin network and the ability for us to continue to move forward and not keep worrying about China. And as a matter of fact, it actually takes one of the FUDs off the board for for Bitcoin. Because what happens is people say, well, all the mining's happening in China, but now ain't nobody going to be able to say that and the network will still be moving. What do y'all think, man? Y'all think it's a good thing, bad thing? What do you guys think about this?
I think it's a good thing because what's going to happen is other miners are going to pop up in other locales around the world. So that will cancel out anything that China is trying to do. So let them go ahead and stay offline and watch how many pop up around the world.
Yeah, that's a good thought, Grant.
I'm with Granny on that. Like with those miners going offline, eventually they stay offline long enough that the algorithm and all that's going to adjust, and the people that's out here still mining is going to get more opportunity. So yeah, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I even saw one of the miners packing up. They said they were moving all their equipment to Maryland. So some of that stuff's coming right into the United States, which is awesome.
Texas as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Somebody on Facebook, Mr. John Caldwell, said that's also good now for hydroelectricity in Africa. So we might start seeing some shifts over there, you know what I'm saying? Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it would be great to see it expand in other areas that you're not seeing mining being developed. I don't think we should have most of the mining in the States. Just my personal opinion. I think, having it spread out would be key in my personal opinion. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I know there's a massive amount of American mining companies and infrastructures developing at the moment, but it'll be the next year or so will be really interesting to see. Where we're seeing miners expand over the next couple.
Right. I think the news is good. Anytime you get to see Bitcoin destroy some FUD, especially FUD of this long. I mean, even that, the conference in Miami, well, the shitcoin conference, people try to make that a thing, and it's like, like Granny said, like Regal said, people just going to pop up and go other places, and it's going to be good. I'm not going to say FUD is ever going to go away. And it's good for the price action. The FUD is good for the price, but it's like Lamar said, it's not FUD. But what's FUD is the amount of attention paid to the rhetoric that, the Chinese control the mining in Bitcoin, and if they do X Y Z, Bitcoin is doomed. So it's really good to put that mentality to bed and to get to see like where we grow from here.
I think for me it's just a matter of why are they shutting down the miners in China? Does anybody know why they're doing that? Before I have an opinion, why are they doing that?
Okay, CJ, just to give you a little backstory, China has been fickle with Bitcoin from the beginning. Like they literally embrace it and then they ban it, and then they embrace it and then they ban it, and then they embrace it and they ban it. And I guess finally they coming after. Felt like, I guess, because think about it, we saw this happen. What was it, about a month ago? Y'all, 30% of the power dropped off. They said something happened with the electrical grid, but I bet what was happening is that they were trying to see if they could kill Bitcoin by doing that. And when Bitcoin stuck around and everything was still rolling, they like, well, shoot, that didn't work. We just got to just come on out and say we don't want it no more. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what's going on at this point, because they realized that last one didn't drop it. And this is what's going to happen. They're about to push all of this mining power outside of their country and basically get rid of a global currency, because we understand that they've always been about control. And they make plans for hundreds of years. And this plan that they've been trying to do to destroy the dang on dollar is getting basically co-opted because of Bitcoin, because nobody controls Bitcoin. So how do they even fight it? They don't realize that they have the power if they stick with it. They got all the people. Think about it. They could literally go through and just buy up all the Bitcoin in the same way that they were attracting as many of the world's foreign currencies that they could when they was attracting all the dollars there. So I don't know, CJ, but yeah, go ahead. I want to hear your opinion on it though. Given that that China always does this and we don't have, we don't never know the exact rhyme or reason,
Yeah, because I know I did a video a long time ago where I said that China had banned Bitcoin, and then I had forgot all about it because then it seemed like they were doing a lot, that seemed to be pro-Bitcoin. And it also seems as if, them being a communist country, that they support Jiangpeng Zhao and Justin Sun, who are, some of their top CEOs over there. So I find it very interesting that they would ban the mining for it. Maybe it's a pollution issue over there because maybe they're not using the renewable resources. I'm not really sure, but overall, I love it because it lowers the price. Bring on the FUD all you want. It allows me to buy more Satoshis. More Bitcoin for me is always good for me, but it does make me question to see what's the real reason behind it. And until I understand the real reason, I'm going to still collect my Satoshis, but I'm going to research.
What's up, y'all? Part of the reason, CJ, that has been floating around is that as they roll out their CBDC, that central bank digital currency, they're trying to eliminate any potential competition, right? Any potential competition. How true that is, no one knows. But I mean, like Lamar mentioned, ever so often, they just go back and forth. They ban, they can't ban, they realize that. So then what do? And I think this seems to be a viable solution to them if they can just shut out the miners. But that still doesn't do anything in a global decentralized way.
And if you look at what they did, so the bans are really interesting. So they banned crypto exchanges and ICOs for businesses, but not individuals, right? So the retail investor can hold crypto, but businesses can't. So that would support Ryan's idea that they're trying to make space for their digital currency that they will be releasing at one time. But I mean, it's really clear they've been quite schizophrenic with regards to how they look at cryptos. And what's interesting about China is that their regulatory bodies are somewhat voluntary, right? So not like in the United States where you absolutely have to comply. They have these three bodies. One, the National Internet Finance Association, the China Banking Association and the Payment Clearing and Association of China. So they all roll under the People's Republic of China Bank, and they set guidance, not rules, but guidance. And so there's a little bit of flexibility there, but their regulatory environment is very interesting, and it has been shape shifting for several years, and a lot of activity this year. So I think we'll continue to see them move back and forth, but definitely paving the way for the digital yuan.
Yeah, and the thing is they've been making this play for years. I tried to explain this the other day. I was telling people how China has falsely suppressed their currency to make it seem like it was really cheap. Because if you really think about it, because so many things are made in China, that means many people every single day, or many companies or whatever, are taking their money and actually buying the yuan so they can get things made within that country, which means that from a global standpoint, that currency should be one of the top currencies in the world. But they have artificially suppressed it so that it would always be attractive for people to come and produce their goods there so they could get profits. It's a long-term game, right? If I can continue to attract your dollars and then use your dollars to make investments in your country and slowly but surely start taking over your country, which is what they've tried to do in the United States. If you see the real estate from a real estate standpoint, from our bonds, our treasury, right, you see what's going on with the Chinese taking our dollars in. What you start to realize is that their long-term play was to gain as much control as they possibly could of these other currencies and then utilize those currencies and then come in and sweep everything out and say, look, now you got to use this digital yuan. Or now you got to use our currency, which then makes them the global reserve currency, because everyone knows the real fight now for empirical power is through the currency. The U.S. dollar is the reason why there is a United States empire, but that empire is protected by military bases all over the globe. China is trying to do the same thing. They're building military bases right now in some parts of Africa and other parts of Southeast Asia. Like if you look at what China's doing, they're like actually kind of copying from the standpoint, but they understand that the real empire is through the dollar. Through the currency. And so for them to understand that when you have something like a Bitcoin that they cannot control, it's the same thing they did with the internet. They can't control Google. They can't control Facebook. So what do? We're going to ban it. You can't use those in here. We're going to build our own version of it. It's a very isolated or what's the word I'm looking for, y'all? They try to keep themselves to themselves. They try to stay in a walled garden, so to speak.
Isolationist or
isolationist.
Sort of like
That's the word I was looking for.
Asymmetrical type of thing as well, where they control the balance.
Yeah, they try to stay isolated off and control what they can control, but at the same time make sure that what they control is within their reach. And that's what they're doing, man. And I see that, and they've been talking about it, but I think this is a beautiful, beautiful thing for Bitcoin. Because after all of this FUD and Bitcoin's still around and people still are getting it, what's going to happen is you'll start seeing the resiliency and the, as we call it, the honey badgerism of what Bitcoin is and how it is able to continue on in spite of all of these things that keep getting thrown at it, because it is, from a technological standpoint, a decentralized network.
Correct. Hey, I think it's going to be real interesting to see how the rest of the year plays out, because we're just about to leave out of Q2 and go into Q3 and 4. Being halfway through the year and having the conference, already, just previously passed. And now we see this price correction. If Bitcoin still, does what most people like me think it's going to do before the end of the year is out, it's going to make this current moment, historic, because people are going to be wishing they would have got in now, thinking it was going to, continue to crash down. But if we still go on the upside in the end of Q2, 3 and 4, then, we'll be right back on track like nothing ever even happened.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree. And I have a question, I guess maybe for Lamar, for Reddy, when it comes down to these central bank digital currencies. Are those mined in a similar type of fashion? Meaning, say if China shuts down their Bitcoin mining, can their government use that same type of technology for their digital yuan? I'm not sure about the tech. That's why I'm asking about that. I'm trying to figure out what is their ultimate reason behind it. is it run in the same type of fashion? Could you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. From a technical standpoint, there's no reason for them to do that. It's a completely centralized currency. There's no reason for them to go into mining. They should just use databases and protect them. I mean, to be all the way real with you. But from a perspective of why would they tear down the mining, again, if you, all you've heard all of these years is that China is extremely important when it comes to Bitcoin, then at some point, if you want to try to kill Bitcoin, what do? You say, "Hey, everybody who's making us important, get rid of your miners, because we're gonna be able to kill it that way." And then when they realize they can't kill it, this is what I always say. They try to fight you, but then what winds up happening is something with a decentralized network like this. It's just like I always say, the war on drugs, the war on terrorism, the war on piracy, right? When people were pirating software. When they figure out that they can't take it down because from a technological standpoint or from a network perspective, it is pretty much anti-fragile, because every time you take down one node, take down one drug dealer, take down one terrorist, another one pops up in its place. So it's very difficult to fight a war against that. And what has to happen is they wind up adopting or adapting, right? They adopt it, which, in terms of terrorism, nobody's adopting terrorism, but they adapt to it. And they put new things into place to try to stop it. And that's what I think is going to have to happen with Bitcoin. And China's going to recognize that really soon. That's why I think this is good. This is a part of what we have to go through to show the anti-fragility of this network. And if here's the thing, if we don't make it back from this, then that means that everything that we said wasn't real. But when we do make it back from this, which is what I believe, and we already see it happening, when we do make it back from this, it's not going to do anything but create another piece of solid foundation or another cornerstone for Bitcoin to build upon. Because now it's like, yeah, we went through a civil war with the block sizes. We went through China cutting off all the 90% of their miners. You see what I'm saying? We went through the energy flood. Once you keep doing that and you keep making it past all of these points, it's just like I said earlier, it's like in your real life. You keep making it past these earlier points, you start getting stronger and stronger and realizing how unstoppable you are. And that's what I think is going to happen from this whole Bitcoin situation, from this mining situation.
And once again, it just proves again that this is what Bitcoin was made for. This is exactly why it's here. So it just like you're saying, Lamar, this is the reason why it exists. Of course, it is not uncommon for a country or a world power to want to have control of the money. It is what they do. And it's not uncommon for a country to want to create their own currency, whether it's digital or something that you could touch. It's what they do. And so for them to pull this play, again, it just will also show that Bitcoin is not for that cause. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's for peer-to-peer, for people to have control over their money. It's for it to be decentralized. It's not to have somebody in control of all of it. So that's what it's for. So I'm excited, to be honest.
Like I've said on a lot of other calls, back in the day, 2017, Bitcoin showed me some old Floyd Mayweather stuff. Like, everything you put in front of it, it just destroyed. And so, like Lamar is saying, and a lot of other folks have said, this FUD for China has been going on so long that Chinese have actually started believing that they were in control of something. And here's another thing too. After this is conquered, don't think you won't still hear the same type of stuff. Like this is yeah, bro. Don't think you won't hear the same style of BS, FUD, whatever, because now you'll start, once you start noticing that all the language around the FUD is the same. It's all the same timing. It's all the same fears. You really just start really understanding why hodling is just one of the greatest things, and staying in Bitcoin is as well. I mean, so I remember I was on one of these Clubhouse calls, and they were saying that sometimes in tech, or I know they were talking about Google, but a lot of times you test something so many times to see if you can break it. How many times can you try to see if you can break a product or break a code? Like how many times can you test it to failure? And this is just another thing that's taking place. Except like these tests, they're they're more so a power of thing of control, like I want to say, Corey said. But you like one of the reasons why I never see Bitcoin fitting in with nothing of traditional powers at all, whether it's finance, government. Like Bitcoin would never fit because the tech isn't designed for it to fit that way. And this is just going to be another thing that, over time you start understanding what decentralization really means. None of what you all will see take place means anything in the grand scheme of it. Bitcoin's still growing on. Hell, I bought Bitcoin today, and I hope you're buying some too. You just have to all the new people out there, or people who've been here a while but you haven't really paid attention. This is just a cycle, and now you just get to sit back and watch all the cycles happen because it's all
Yo,
this is.
Justin, that is so true. Like, just like you said, like when people can't beat the champion in the ring, well, Mayweather, when they can't beat him in the ring at this game, they come from the side with something that has to do with everything other than boxing. You know what I'm saying? To try to
Like
take him
wallets.
down. So just like with Bitcoin, I won't be surprised if they say, "Well, Bitcoin can't even read." You know what I'm saying? Like what? Like that has nothing to do with how Bitcoin operates.
Yeah, like nothing at all. When the hate don't work, they start telling lies, man. That's all this is.
I think one of the best things to think about, right? Like we keep on reiterating how this is evidence of news being recycled, right? Like you can go back to 13 with China and the stuff that they're doing. You can tie in India at some point in time. One of the main things to think about here is that there is a sizable portion, 10 to 11 million, worth of Bitcoin that really doesn't move, right? It doesn't move. People can go and verify the information. More of these drops that we're seeing are tied to recent Bitcoin being purchased and then sold, right? So it goes back to what are these people thinking? A lot of it is new people not understanding the FUD, right? Anything that comes out is just like, oh my goodness, this is so new, this is so recent. It's like, nah, like you thinking something is a week old. This thing is like 4 years old that people have been talking about this topic. 6 years, right? The energy consumption, anybody can go and look. Energy consumption has been discussed within the Bitcoin community for several years, 4, 5, 6 years. This Tether news, the USDT situation that a lot of people on Clubhouse are now rallying around and saying, hey, the Bitcoin community doesn't like, they support Tether and the counterfeiting and the price of Bitcoin would be so much less of this, that, and the third. And we like, I'm just listening in. Like, I can tell that you really just picked up this piece of information, but it's recycled. You can go back for several years, again, 4 or 5 years. People in the Bitcoin community have been talking about USDT. People don't even care about USDT within the Bitcoin community, right? We don't. It's not one of those things. So they put so much emphasis on something that has a market cap right now of 30 to 60 billion, which is freaking extremely small relative to Bitcoin. So let's say USDT is insolvent. What happens? Well, anytime, if we go back in history, anytime that USDT has broken down from its peg value, which is supposed to be 1-to-1, right, to $1, that has just put more money into Bitcoin. So what other fear is out there that people can talk about? What other thing? What other this? What other that? And I think that, it's one of those things where you have newer people, especially those coming from the traditional finance side, they get a hold of a little piece of information and then they take it to the next level. They really take it to the next level. Even some people that are within the space, CEOs of companies and things of that nature, they say, just be mindful that price could continue to fall. Okay, cool. Like, yes, we all say that. Be mindful that price could continue to fall, but what are you really going to do, right? Is that mean that you're going to look for buying opportunities, or are you scaling out of your position? Like, what side are we really on when people start to say the things that they say? What is their intent? So I would submit to everybody, watch out who you're listening to and verify the information that they're saying. Don't just take it at surface value, because then you might get caught up in the headline when it's just like, this is just a whole recycling of news. The biggest thing to me right now, outside of decentralization, outside of the difficulty adjustment, which we know when miners and things like that go offline, is the whole fact that Russia is de-dollarizing, right? They removed the US dollar. China could do the same thing. That would be their nuclear option. Get out the U.S. dollar, tell the U.S., pay me back all of your debt in euro or in some other currency, right? So that's that. We got to get beyond the news, stay focused on the system itself and all of its benefits, and don't let other people make irrational arguments and conflate a whole bunch of things. That's really and truly what stuff gets dangerous. People have this little piece, they put that little piece, and then they concoct the story. Don't be a part of that story. Create your own.
And
This is Ryan. I'm done speaking.
Yeah, I agree completely with Ryan in that sense. I think this is a chess move from China. I don't think that they are trying to ban Bitcoin on the overall long term. I think the reason why we see it as so schizophrenic is because they're making chess moves. We know they have a big presence in Libya, and Libya has become one of the bigger places for Bitcoin mining. I think there's something internal going on over there, and this is just a part of the chess piece. Kind of like how even here in America, where we have these cycles where they'll say Bitcoin is horrible, it's trash, it's this, it's going to go to zero, and then all of a sudden it takes off, and it's the best thing in the world. I think China has their own way of having their own cycles, and I think they're personally just diversifying. I think they're trying to make sure they win with the digital yuan. I think they're trying to get the mining more in Africa and away from their personal citizens. I think this is just their way of diversifying around the entire world and trying to really copy the American blueprint in terms of how they did it with their U.S. dollar. I think now China's trying to do the same type of thing in this digital world.
I don't think it's chess, though, bro. I don't think it's chess. Let me tell you why I don't think it's chess. Because if it's chess, we all see it. Like we already know what the next move is. If it's chess, we all talking about it right now. We all know that at some point they're gonna try to get rid of Bitcoin. Like we know this stuff, so I don't think it's chess. I just think it's them literally feeling like they have power to do this, and they could care less. Because I don't think they're gonna come back to Bitcoin. I don't really believe that. I don't believe that China's going to be like, oh, yeah, let's come back to Bitcoin and provide a global currency that anyone can have and control and hold, especially when you start seeing more of these Latin American countries, start to adopt it. Like, I don't see that, CJ. I don't see that at all, man. What I see is them saying, you know what, it's now or never. We gotta do this. If we're going to do what we're going to do, it's time to pull the switch on this and get it going, especially when there's FUD out there around electricity. Because if you look at it, what they told them, a lot of these provinces are telling them don't provide electricity to any of these mining operations that you know of. So that's how they're trying to crack down on it. If you start reading the articles, you'll see that's what they're trying to do. So I don't think it's chess, CJ. I just think it's like, if it was chess, that means they have an end goal of, that we don't see coming, right? And that we can't already kind of look into the future and see what's coming.
It's not chess.
Yeah,
it's Chinese checkers.
Right.
I was going to say, though, to CJ's point, like, if you look at some of the migration, because he actually was going to talk on some of the things I was talking about in terms of their presence in other countries. And I think, like, that's where you're going to start to see a lot of these miners go. You're going to start seeing a lot of migration to these places where people are going to be able to mine, and they'll be able to do it very cheaply. Like, I'm seeing it in Central America all over the place, seeing it in the Caribbean islands all over the place. You're seeing I'm looking at the migration patterns, and I'm seeing, more and more Asian people, but specifically Chinese people, operate in these markets. And it's not just for Bitcoin, it's for other industries and markets as well. But one question that I do have for everyone is, how much do you think the traditional energy companies of gas and coal and oil are scared of Bitcoin? Because now with these new initiatives coming up in El Salvador and, the whole thing for renewable energy and sustainable energy coming front and center, now we're starting to see that these traditional energy companies and markets are going to be challenged in a way that hasn't been challenged before. So do you all think that they are actively suppressing Bitcoin as well, or making moves to try and discourage people from jumping into Bitcoin?
Well, I think they already have. And with the energy fund, that's not going to go anywhere, right? It's like three main, FUD aspects is the volatility aspect. That's where like governments will say that in
Ian, I think he might have.
I was about to say, did he get cut off for y'all?
Yeah, he got cut. He got cut off, man. I think they're trying to get him, man. He was great to speak too much truth.
Actually, if I might ask, add,
I go
yeah, here goes Ian.
Yeah. Bitcoin mining only uses 0.0075%. It's less than 1% of global energy. So we have the statistics. It goes nowhere. They're going to continue to push this energy FUD, but it's the same thing that they said about the internet in 1993, 1994. Saying, is this using too much energy? If they don't find enough reason for it, or if they don't find value in it, they go the energy route. So this is, old sort of FUD that's always been around. But to answer that question, is like the energy FUD is going to be pushed more and more by energy companies unless they partner with different mining companies. You look at Great American Mining. How they're using the energy flare and the excess energy from certain oil companies. So if they partner with mining companies, then it might be a little bit less FUD coming from them. But if they can't find an agreement that makes them have like the leverage in that partnership, then that's only going to continue. So.
And then the last thing too was CJ. I'm sorry, T-Mac. Go ahead.
I was going to say I disagree. Because people don't realize some of the biggest investors in alternative energy are the oil companies. So it's not. I don't believe it's the energy companies that are spreading the FUD, because they're going to benefit. They're going to get their electricity. So it just means that they're going to shift more investments into that area. As an example, the largest producer of hydrogen is Shell, and the natural gas, or I would say the flare gas that comes from these. It's like a byproduct for them. We have so much like natural gas in this country that we don't know what to do with it. So I don't see that the energy companies are spreading the FUD.
Well, I was saying like if they partner with it, I guess I'm kind of saying the same thing, because I'm saying if they do partner with these mining companies and they find a financial benefit, then 100% that they are going to work with them. But if they don't have those contacts or those avenues, then you might see some negative news coming from them. That was the distinction.
I'm kind of confused as to why energy company would care. Like, don't they get paid for energy usage? Like, that's one thing that they would kind of want, right? If Bitcoin uses so much energy, I think that they would really want Bitcoin to appear on that grid, because people will pay for the energy usage.
Yeah, because they're the source of the energy. And in fact, when I studied alternative energy in college, it was the most of our data, it came from Chevron, because they were for like photovoltaic systems, because they were the one of the biggest investors in all, because during the 70s in the Carter administration, the energy companies got scared, so they were pushed by the government, and also, as I don't know if everybody remembers the gas lines in the 70s, like around 79 or something like that. So what happened was that they put a lot of investment into alternative energy. So I don't see whatever energy we're gonna get into, you best believe that the oil companies will have a part in it.
I think if anything, the gas companies say, the energy companies say Bitcoin doesn't use enough energy.
In fact, with my solar panels, I'm under contract, with Southern California Edison, that since my production is 3 times my usage, then I'm required to use more household energy. It's actually in the contract I signed with them.
Man,
Wow.
Black grandmothers everywhere upset off of that comment right there. Black grandmothers everywhere. They can't even say, "You're using up all my air." They like, "Grandmama, I'm
That's right. Turn off the light.
yeah, turn that light off. Running my
Turn
electric
that light
off."
off.
You either in or out.
Yeah, T-Mac, they don't like that. Black grandmothers like, "You can't make me use more energy." What are you thinking about? No, but I think this is a good segue to what I was going to talk about in the next one for this next half an hour, and it's about the about what's going on with El Salvador. So we see countries like China, who is definitely a world power. Probably people would consider China number 2 behind the United States. We see countries like China banning Bitcoin in a way of trying to get rid of mining and all of those types of things. And then we see small countries like El Salvador, and then I think what's some other, Paraguay and Panama, that are coming into their Bitcoin own, so to speak, and even talking about mining using volcanic geothermal electricity. Also, from the standpoint of them making it legal tender in El Salvador, what it does with the World Bank. And I wanted to get into this discussion because we had an amazing room on this week in Clubhouse. If you guys are not on Clubhouse, make sure you come and join the largest Bitcoin-centric club on Clubhouse outside of the Bitcoin Club. We gotta give them their props, but it's just the name Bitcoin brought a lot of people. We have 15,000 people now, members, followers. So we are still growing. We are still growing rapidly. And that's because we have great conversations like this. So I wanted to talk to you guys. So let me just set it up. So what happened is, if you look at article, it's the Articles of Agreement from 1944 for the World Bank. It basically says that the World Bank will accept whatever local currency the country that they've lent the money to. They will accept that currency as for payment of their loans or their debts back to them, right? And that's a beautiful thing. And then it also says that if those loans, or if that currency appreciates while they're in holding of it, then the World Bank has to give back the money back to the actual country that paid the loan payments in, which is a crazy thing when you think about it. So something like Bitcoin that has appreciated on average about 200% a year, when you look at it over time, over the last 10 years, if these countries begin to pay their debts in Bitcoin, and then the World Bank has to accept Bitcoin and hold on to it, whenever Bitcoin goes up, it appreciates in value, the World Bank has a responsibility to give back some of that money back to the country. Now, when you talk about places like the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, when you start looking at those types of organizations, they have kept their finger on the backs of these small countries over and over and over again. And it feels like Bitcoin is giving them a leg up. What do you guys think about that story when you think about how Bitcoin actually can be put into escrow, so to speak, with the World Bank, and the World Bank got to pay them back? What do y'all think about that?
I think that's a classic Cinderella story right there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's either going to be beautiful or it's going to get real ugly. It's going to be either a huge, change in terms of how the world looks at money, or it's going to be a lot of craziness in terms of people that are in power trying to stay in power, which historically has been done through war and through force. So we'll see how this plays out, but it's going to be very, very interesting. Either way, I'm getting my Bitcoin and put it on cold storage.
Yeah, I think the main thing is going to be timing, though, right? Because if price of Bitcoin has retraced significantly, what impact would that have on El Salvador or like some of these nations that are repaying some of that? But if price is up, then it works out really, really well for those particular countries. And I guess people too.
But Ryan, think about this. Almost all the currencies that these small countries are paying in are dropping because they're crazily inflated, like Argentina and the Zimbabwe's and you know what I'm saying? So like their currency has always depreciated against the dollar or against some benchmark. They usually establish some benchmark, which normally is the dollar. So in this situation, if their local currencies are always doing that, right, then why would they not want to pay in a currency that has historically basically raised against the dollar? You feel me?
Yeah, I get you. I mean, but that's the difference with El Salvador, right? Because since 2001, their legal tender has been U.S. dollar, right? So I think for them, it is a little bit different because they're partially an outlier, if you will, from some of the other nations that we typically hear about. Oh yeah, they're going through hyperinflation, they're going through this, they're going through that. It's simply that El Salvador didn't control the monetary policy as it relates to their legal tender. So everything that the U.S. was doing was basically, to the detriment of them and not necessarily for their betterment. So in this case, it works out for them either way to have something that's more so deflationary versus something that is inflationary. Completely agree with that 1000%. I'm just saying, timing for them, depending on what the structure is for the repayment and X, Y, and Z, can look really good, or it can be one of those things whereas they don't come out as good as they could, with the volatility. But again, we not really complain. I don't complain about volatility. I love it as a
Yeah, I
trader.
think
It's good.
So Lamar, how do the small countries enforce that act when it comes time for them? Say that Bitcoin goes up in value, and it's time for them to, get the dividends back on the compound interest against the Bitcoin. How do the small countries enforce getting that back from the World Bank? Because
That's
the World Bank plays, as you said, for like the major players.
no, but that's the thing though, right? The World Bank basically, if you think about how they act with one another, the World Bank is setting this thing up to try to connect all of these countries. So if the World Bank says, okay, we're just not going to give you your money back, then they're going to have issues with everybody else. You see what I'm saying? They trying to keep this thing governed. But I truthfully believe what's going to wind up happening, you're going to see an amendment that says we'll accept everything except cryptocurrency. That's what I think is going to wind up happening. I think you're going to see an amendment like, oh, hold on, they might have got us. You know what I'm saying? They might have, they slipped one in on us. We got to hurry and fix this. I think we'll do everything except for anything that is a digital currency. And they can, matter of fact, they probably can't even say digital currency. Why? Because all of these countries are going to have their own central bank digital currencies. So they're going to have to figure some way out to word it. I think there's going to be an amendment for sure. It's probably going to be the fastest amendment that ever went through their council ever.
Yeah, they probably would say if your currency starts with a B and ends with a coin, you can't pay.
Yeah, so that's what
Yeah,
it
the
is,
rule
Coach.
changing. That's
Yeah, that's the only thing, right? Because like if they can't play favorites, so to speak. I guess they could, and I guess they could literally, you know what I'm saying? But then you wind up getting into global court. Now you got these global courts that have these agreements, and you got, you know what I'm saying? You'll wind up going into all of these other types of situations, which to me would lead people more towards Bitcoin, because then they start realizing like we have no. You know what I'm saying? We have no say in this. This freaking World Bank, we doing everything we supposed to do, and they going to sit here and not take what, they not going to adhere to their own measures. It's almost like the NCAA. You see what happened to that? Like the NCAA, all of these years, they won't give these athletes no money, and the Supreme Court just came out and said, hey, these athletes can get paid. So it's the same thing. Like they start hating the NCAA because it's supposed to be a faction that's supposed to work for all of us, and it seems like it's only working for the big players. So screw this place. And that's the same thing that'll happen with the World Bank. You'll start seeing more and more countries like being like, look, if y'all not going to adhere to the rules, then we're going to establish something else. And it might be a bank that is completely, a World Bank that is completely based on Bitcoin. And all of these countries come together and start utilizing Bitcoin as their underlying currency. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the future? I'm just saying, like, they have these rules in place for a reason, and they've been around for a very long time. You know what I'm saying? So they got to adhere to it.
That's crazy. Go ahead.
I was going to say, not only that, like, I just think the move is going to put so much more money in the hands of folks that live in El Salvador. So, because a huge, like 30% of their GDP is for remittances. And that's basically people from abroad sending money to El Salvador. And so how do people do that right now? They use Western Union or some sort of super expensive payment platform where they could be charged like 20%. Like on the dollar. That's crazy. And so if you don't have to pay that fee, that means you have more money for your family and more money to live your life. So that for that alone, I mean, it makes so much sense for that country because that is just more money that's going to be able to circulate into the El Salvadorian economy.
Hey, I ain't want to throw no speculation up there, but they got alternative coins trying to do that. Correct or no?
What you mean, trying to do what, Quavo?
Be the alternative payment system. No, be the alternative payment system.
Yeah, they might have alternative coins, but basically because Bitcoin is legal tender, I mean, by law, merchants have to accept Bitcoin. By law, they have to. So folks from, I guess the vendors on the street, the folks in the market, all the way to big businesses. So even if there are other alternative payments, it's just more complicated if you're settling your payment in another form, because eventually you're going to have to go to Bitcoin.
Yeah, think
Yeah,
about
I mean,
this.
I feel what you're saying, but I'm just saying, like, let's say if I'm a hot dog stand guy and the transaction is gonna cost more than a hot dog. How does it benefit me then?
But
It's gonna.
it
You
won't
need to
though.
get some.
But it
You
You
need to
won't.
get
get some.
lightning
It's
wallet.
lightning.
But this where
Exactly.
lightning come in. This where lightning come
Exactly.
in, though.
And that's what
Or
people
get
are
some
doing
cheaper
right
hot
now.
dogs.
So they're
Yeah.
using
Cheaper hot
Stripe.
dogs.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They're using Stripe, which is on the Lightning Network, so now it's going to be fast and cheap.
Yeah,
Way
here's
cheaper than 20 cents on the dollar.
and Miss Charlene, this is what I wanted to say too. So for Lightning, so everybody who's just now listening, the Lightning Network is a network that is built on top of Bitcoin that basically alleviates a lot of the fees because there's a completely separate network. And I'm not going to get deep into it. We usually have a Lightning room every once in a while, probably about once or twice a month in here with my man Jamal James from the Lightning, from Lightning Labs. But the thing is that Lightning Network payment or whatever, the cool thing about it is, think about this. Now remittances don't need an extra step in El Salvador. Like it used to be, you would remit dollars and they would have to exchange it. Not in El Salvador. I guess I'm using the wrong country, because in El Salvador it still was dollars. If you remitted money, you remitted money. You remitted dollars because they use dollars. But in other countries, let's say like in Nigeria, if they took it on as legal tender, and that's why El Salvador is weird. But if they took it on as legal tender, it would be real easy just to take Bitcoin from here and send it to Nigeria. And if people are using it on the street to buy things with, then they don't even have to go another step. You just buy the Bitcoin and send the Bitcoin over. Now it's global. And then the person in Nigeria can send the money up to Russia. And the person in Russia could then send it, you see what I'm saying, to China, without having to go through any other step of exchanging for the local currency. So if a lot of these Latin American countries, come on and they start to use Bitcoin as legal tender, that's gonna get us way closer to a global, like a pure global currency. Right now, a lot of people use it as a store of value, but when you start taking it as legal tender, that's gonna change things in a lot of these places.
Yeah, because that means you don't ever have to exit the fiat. It's a closed loop system. You're always circulating the dollar in Bitcoin. And that is kind of what's happening in Nigeria. And that's the state that we want to go toward.
Because Miss Charlene, because this is the thing. So somebody today was like, regardless of what people say, everybody focuses on price. But in that type of environment, there is no price. Because people will be basically like pricing their things in Satoshis.
That's right.
So it's like, I buy stuff for Satoshis in Nigeria. I buy stuff for Satoshis in El Salvador. I buy stuff for Satoshis in Brazil. Like all around the globe, once people start pricing things in Satoshis, there's no reason to even look at it versus the fiat currency that we keep on seeing on these exchanges. Because now it just becomes it's hyper Bitcoinalization, as we say, where everything is priced in Satoshis. And things like what's going on in El Salvador start moving us toward that. That goal.
Does that reduce the volatility issue as well then? If my entire supply chain is in Satoshis and I'm upstream and downstream in Satoshis, then the US dollar fluctuates. It won't impact me quite as much.
Exactly. I mean, because that's the thing I talk about from the standpoint of, like even these countries that have volatile currencies. For the people that are there, they don't really feel that, right? The only thing they see is the prices of things that are imported, like things that come from the outside where, it might cost way more to buy Kellogg's Frosted Flakes and not buy the Frosted Flakes that are created within that country themselves. You see what I'm saying? That's when you start running into issues, when you have things that are imported. And so you start seeing the price in the goods look crazy compared to what you have, right? But everything that's within that area, if you have a closed loop economy, and like you said, everyone in the entire supply chain accepts it, you're not going to feel any volatility because things will just be priced in Satoshis.
1,000 sats for a chicken today is going to be 1,000 sats for a chicken tomorrow.
Right. And the only way the chicken goes up, right, is, and here's the great thing. In a system like Bitcoin, you should only have to pay 500 sats for a chicken, because the chicken itself, right, is maybe purchased from somewhere else where Bitcoin is appreciating against it because you're not constantly diluting the Bitcoin. You get what I'm saying? So it just depends on, and it can go both ways in that environment if you're dealing with imports. That's the biggest issue. But the moment the world is on the global Satoshi, it's going to feel like just here in the United States where a dollar is a dollar. When I give $1 to Josh give $1 back to me, and we give it to you, Ed, it's all going to feel the same.
And if that's the price of chicken, then crypto's hot dog stand, he should just go move to chicken dogs, because that's definitely much cheaper than the beef dogs that he's been paying for. Because that's just
Oh, that's a great point. It's gonna drift people towards the best money
and the best product.
Yep.
I was gonna say we can't forget about carrots.
Can't forget about carrot dogs.
Oh, we can forget about carrot dogs.
Josh, I saw you come off mute, man. What's going on, brother?
That could actually probably just be my Android phone. It's bugging. I'm on that Metro PCS down here in San Pedro, so feel free to throw me on mute if it kicks me off and y'all hear some random stuff in the background. I'm just here with Crypto Kids Camp, listening to the Genesis Block.
Yeah, man. He done dogged everybody. Android, Metro PCS, all in one. It was the anti-commercial.
Wait till I start talking about traffic on the 405. We'll have to go to an adults-only room for that one.
So, yeah, man. So what do you guys saw? I know we're getting close to the end of the hour, and we're going to have a quick question-answer session for about a half an hour. I've been trying to keep this show to about an hour and 20, an hour 30 now, so we're going to have to go to full 2. But what do you guys think about all of this news? And do you think this is just going to be just like most of the other news? We'll get past it and keep moving, and Bitcoin will still be resilient? Or do you think this news cycle is actually one that's going to be damning? Like, what do you guys think about this news cycle right now? Is this one that's going to really hurt Bitcoin?
That's a rhetorical question, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it just seems like it's just doing nothing. Like, the more FUD they create, just Bitcoin just holds its place.
Yeah, it's like we're seeing the true
see
floor.
some type of massive correction. I mean, just based off of what I'm looking at, with the charts, we're at an interesting place right now, and we can't just keep getting these articles released about, potential sell-offs or potential crashes within the market. A lot of retail buyers have exited their positions at a loss, and it's going to be really interesting to see, how the market moves. Just within this week, the end of the month is closing, in a couple days, so you might see another, we might see another sell-off at some point if we don't hold this level. But yeah, it'd be really interesting, not just to make it about price, but just as, all markets as well. Everything looks very vulnerable right now. And, just having a plan set in place as to where you're going to store your value is going to be key, in these moments.
Yeah, I mean, just Jay here, right? Like, I mean, we're still above the 50-week moving average, right? Which is at like 28-ish. I mean, even with the death crosses, right? Like, there have been several death crosses, but there's a lagging indicator, and it hasn't always been a negative implication, right? It hasn't always been a negative implication. I do get what you're saying about tying in and pairing the crypto market and then the broader markets, because they were once tied a little bit. We did see some correlation there, but I mean, overall, like, I mean, to me, as long as we do not dip below 20,000, as long as we don't dip below 20,000, everything is going to be fine. Why is Ryan saying that? Simply because never in the history after we've entered a new bull market have we retraced below the previous all-time high. So if we keep above that level, then the complete market structure is still intact. And then there won't be all of these other stories about how the market structure is completely broken and things of that nature. So, I mean, the 100-week is below the previous all time high. So I mean, it is what it is. I don't think anything is too bad right now. I mean, if 90% gets kicked off, whatever. I mean, we just keep going back to that 28K, 29K level, and we just keep things pushing. It's a good time for investors, for long-term investors, to stack your sats, and that's not a solicitation to buy nor sell Bitcoin, but do what you do. Talk to a tax professional about wash trading within this space as well. If you're really trying to take, offset some taxes and things, CJ is up here. He can speak to that piece that you don't have in the traditional markets. So that's just to the benefit. MicroStrategy has done that. They offset like 285 million in losses and then wound up buying a couple hundred million worth of Bitcoin. So that's that. I'm done speaking.
Are you back in your home, Ryan?
Yeah, I just made it back.
Okay, good.
Like 20 minutes ago. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the weird thing about price right now is that there's a 4-year cycle that we can see pretty easily based on the halvening, and if the price breaks down right now, then it's kind of broken the pattern of that 4-year cycle, as well as stock to flow, as well as a few other things. So the confusion is that
not quite, Ed Willie, because not. If we go back to 2019, we broke below the 21-week EMA and the 20-week SMA, and we traded sideways for about 5 to 6 months. By the 2013,
yeah,
something very
sideways I'm
similar
not worried
happened.
about. If we crash another 50% from here, that would be it wouldn't even be concerning to me. It's just that we have to throw out our models at that point, right? We have to say, well, stock to flow doesn't work, and Willy Woo is wrong, and all of these on-chain metrics and off-chain metrics and all this stuff that we've been saying will predict 150 to 300K by the end of the year. We then have to throw all those out and go, well, we're just throwing darts at a dartboard now. That being said, we just go back to the fundamentals and say, all right, long term, we're still good. But short term, like, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. Last piece here. There is a model out there that says diminishing returns, lengthening cycle. So lengthening cycle theory is coming up. And it looks like that is playing out more than just the 4-year model, because not all of the cycles have been theoretically like plus or minus a couple months, but it's tied to the halving. So that's one that I lean more towards, is like lengthening cycle. That's the camp that I'm personally in. But everything that you said, completely agree with it. This is Ryan. I'm done speaking.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, I definitely agree with what you stated earlier, Ryan, and you as well, Ed. I'm really interested in seeing, how the market evolves. Yes, the previous cycles have had a certain way that they've moved, and we can kind of expect them to continue that way. But moving forward, we're seeing a lot of big players and new players in getting involved in the space, and I think we're going to see some changes in just how things are moving. Like Ethereum had a blow off top. Bitcoin didn't necessarily have a blow off top, and even just like looking at some of the patterns they're forming, it's interesting. But yeah, I do agree. If we do come down to that 20K level, it would be interesting to see. But at the end of the day, anything can change in the crypto market. But definitely agree with a lot of the points that were made.
I think as far as go ahead, CJ. You're so much smarter than me.
Oh, don't say that. No, but no, to follow up what Ryan said, when it comes to the cryptocurrency taxes, I don't do anything with wash sales. We don't know how the IRS is going to rule on that going forward, because as of right now, cryptocurrency is still considered property. We don't know how that's going to rule. So the strategy, stocks, bonds treated slightly different. Property, like real estate, is treated slightly different. The strategy we use in the crypto tax.
I was going to add that I think that all of the news and all the FUD is still good. One, because it actually tests what Bitcoin is, and and even for the people that have Bitcoin, it just reassures a person as to why they have it. So I'm all for it. And it's just interesting to see how it repositions afterwards.
Well, I think this is a good place to stop. I think we had a
hold on, Lamar. I'm sorry. Just 2 seconds. There has also been a lot of FUD too about BVB and the membership. And if you look at the stage, we not only have black members up here, but we have Caucasian members, and we even have a robot up here. So
crazy, man. For people out there in the Facebook and YouTube world, y'all can't see it, but we do have a robot on stage that has their profile picture as a robot. Oh my God!
But Big Mar, I have to tell you something about Ryan, man. There's some on the streets of Long Beach that kept him tied there. He was seen at the same corner, for like 3 days in a row. I'm not gonna go further than that, but I'm just saying I was worried about my brother making it home.
Look, man. Okay, can we move on? This is the Genesis Block.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was just worried about
2 weeks in a row, man. So listen, we're going to have a question and answer like we always do. And the first question I have from Facebook is from Ken Groves. What do you all know and think about the new banking system called BRICS? And I think we've brought up BRICS several times on the Genesis Block, but I'll let somebody take it away. Anybody want to talk about BRICS? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa.
I'll say that it's new. It's new. It's infantile. I think it has the potential to be something big, but right now it's still really infantile, and it's not doing anything to challenge anything right now. But it is something to look at. I do think it is something to look at. I think they're trying to do something big, but as of now, it's not posing any immediate threat. But it is something to keep your eye on.
You think it's new? I don't think it's that new though. It's been around. It's been around since like 06, 2009 was like the first summit they had.
Well, it's relatively new, I'll say, compared to like any other monetary system that you have. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like it's been around for about 15 years. Yeah, definitely, I'm not arguing that, but I think in terms of like it's standing up to other systems, it's new and it's infantile, and we'll see what happens with it. But it is something to keep your eye on as far as globalization goes and what they're looking to do to challenge the World Bank.
But I think the BRICS, man, only the one that's doing well is C. So, Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, they're not still performing like China is. They were basically being touted, when they were booming economies, man. But their economies aren't booming like they were. COVID saw to that. And so that's why you haven't heard much about BRICS. I just think that, China by far is of course, they're the biggest economy within BRICS, but I don't see like what is like Russia. What's their whole economy? It's like one of the smaller states of the United States, like the economy of Vermont or something like that. They're not that big. They just have a big military.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing, if you think about nominal GDP, I think China's like number 3 behind. It's the United States, then the European Union, which China kind of dropped. From PPP GDP, they are number 1, but China, from a nominal GDP perspective, kind of dropped. They used to be number 2, and then India, I think, is 7. Russia is down at like 10, and Brazil's right behind it. Then South Africa is like out of the G20. I think South Africa is the last of them, but all of those countries are part of the G20, though.
Right. So I'm sorry, correction. I was thinking about North Korea the size of Vermont. It was Russia. It's like it's it's less than the size of California or something like that. It's not like they're not even though they're part of the G20. I don't see them as like the big movers. Like China is the biggest mover. The EU though, it's a collective, but it's still a whole bunch of separate states, right? Or nation states, I should say.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
So if you like look at it, the biggest economy on there is Germany. So if you just go by country GDP, the EU is not. They're like, I think Germany is like number 5 or something like that, 4 or 5 after Japan. Yep.
So it's United States then China. Yeah, you're right. But they put the union all together because of But yeah, you're right. T Mac. It's United States then China then Japan then Germany then the UK.
I just want to correct myself on Russia because they are, I think, closer to the size of California. But okay. Go ahead.
So BRICS is not really new. It's just really they're trying to separate themselves from Western from the whole Western economics, right? Because as you can see, the United States and the European Union together are kind of controlling things economically around the globe, and that was their attempt. And I guess they still having meetings. I think this year's meeting of BRICS is in India, from what I saw. So like the 13th BRICS summit will be in India this year. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of developments come out of it. I don't know how that's gonna work out. I always see China as always wanting to be the, like it's like, hey, yeah, we're all together, but I'm the big dog of all together. So everybody needs to do what I'm doing. And I can see them trying to maybe, China trying to get those other countries to accept the yuan or something. You know what I'm saying? And we'll see how that works. But yeah.
Yeah, good luck convincing Russia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the problem. It's like you got all of these big dogs that say they're going to work together, but it feels like everybody wants control, right?
Russia and China interests are more aligned than we think, and they can do things that seem like they are unrelated, but then they still support the bigger mission. Ultimately, to me, as long as they see the U.S. fail more, they could really care less about some of the other things like that. Ultimately,
I don't know about that.
No. Hold on. What I would say is ultimately, though, right? Ultimately, then it does go back to that. But they're not going to fight each other with the common goal of yet. That's what I'm saying. Yet, without at least there being major damage to the U.S. Right? You got to get the U.S. out the way because then it is self-destructive and not to the betterment of their overall bigger interest, right? Because the common enemy is the U.S. to them. And then after they get past that, then they can do whatever they need to do to then establish their quote-unquote world dominance, whichever one. But de-dollarization is happening. Russia with that, the U.S. can do something China can do something very similar. It all is like a global playbook for them to then reestablish their own dominance.
But you got to ask yourself this, right? Like China has a huge opportunity because they actually produce things. Like what does Russia produce that the world tries to get outside of like oil?
Murder.
Oh man, don't do that.
No, I was about to say fear, bro. It's
true. And they tell you that.
That's a fact.
But do you see what I'm saying? Like that's the thing. Like China from an economic standpoint has a leg to kind of stand on them and put potentially India. But when you start looking at the other countries, it's like, what are they like? Where does the demand come from for whatever it is they're producing? You get what I'm saying? And I think that's the reason why it's been harder than what they thought to just, let's just be our own little part of the world. Even though the Silk Road, like that whole Silk Road system over there that they're building to connect all of Europe and, and Africa and everything, it's coming along, right? And so I think in the next 10 years, we'll see what those had to, what happens from that standpoint. But man, it's a very interesting situation.
Russia is number 2 for manufacturing of weapons in the world. And I think that's where things come into play in terms of where they see themselves. I literally think in terms of militarization, they definitely envy the U.S. and they want to become that. So I see China working with Russia to basically do the dirty work in that sense, in militarization and violence and murder, like everybody was just saying. That's where I think Russia comes into play.
Who's number one, though?
The U.S., of course.
The U.S. when it comes to
but that's where they work together to try and overthrow. Who's going to say that happens or not? But that's what I think in my mind is going to happen.
But Coach Ken, here's the problem, right? The proximity of those two countries to each other. Like that's the one thing I always look at from a geopolitical standpoint. The proximity of those two countries to each other, and you helping each other build each other's army up. What happens when
I think
it's not all roses.
Well, I think right now the most cooperative they've been is coming up with the name BRICS, because I know for sure the first thing that they had in mind was Rubik's, and that just would not go well.
But they didn't come up with it though. Like other people named them. That's the thing. Like the fact that Brazil is the first one in that, somebody else named him. They said it was coined by the chairman of Goldman Sachs, Jim O'Neill. Building better global economic bricks. You see what I'm saying? So that's where the term came from. They ain't even do that together. So yeah, that was a question from Facebook, and we expounded on that one. Is there anybody in the crowd that we need to bring some people up to make sure? What's going on, Jakumi? Mr. Carrot Dog himself has joined. If there's anybody in the crowd that would like to come up, please raise your hand. The hand raising has been turned back on. Miss Naja's not here today, so I'll hold down both duties. So anybody in the crowd, let's see. I see one person trying to raise their hand. They got questions. Oh, there goes another one. And you can ask any questions you want. Yo, what's going on, Christopher? How you doing, man? Welcome to the stage.
Oh, thank you. I don't really have a question as much as I just wanted to say thank you. I figured with there not being a lot of questions, I could just stop in and just give you guys a big thank you. I'm not big on social media, so I never knew about Clubhouse. I was listening to you that you're live on YouTube week after week, and I'd always get cut off. So I said I want to join, see what the discussion is after you cut off the live stream. But after being on this app now for a week, hearing different perspectives in the crypto world, I really appreciate what Black Bitcoin Billionaires is doing, because you guys are giving the truth, and not any speculation on certain things that unfortunately I hear some of the information that's given out here, and I'm just like, wow. I'm just wanted to step up and say thank you guys. I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I'm gonna keep just sitting back and listening in the audience.
Oh, that's what's up. Welcome, bro. I see you got your here. Let me go on and follow you. I see you got your party hat popping.
Yeah.
I like following the party hats, man.
Right on. I appreciate it. Well, you guys be safe. Definitely keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate everything, all the information I get. I'm chiming in on as many of your live streams that come up, as far as on the Clubhouse, the different rooms, that Crypto After Dark, I believe, I forget who was actually putting that on. Man, you guys are giving me information I had no clue about. I've gotten into the crypto world just on the idea of what if, I won't say it's fear of missing out as much as I've dug in, and, I've done the dollar cost averaging way back. And so I'm glad that I'm getting the right information from you guys that I was actually getting from. I would have never heard about this group if it wasn't for Gentlemen of Crypto. So I got to give my hats off to them as well. So, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate that. And I'll be back quiet.
Oh, that's what's up. What's going on? What's going on?
Well, I had to give Christopher thank you. It was a Bitcoin After Dark. And
here we go.
Back,
hold on. I'm ready to mute this dude, man. Hold on. Let me mute this dude.
No, Christopher mentioned Bitcoin.
I know what he mentioned. Everybody heard it, man. Golly. I tell you what, man.
So me and Josh would love to have you come back, bro. We appreciate it.
You hear this, man, Corey? You see what goes on around here in these streets. Look, let me go. We see. We
can shill Bitcoin After Dark and Genesis Block. It's a BBB room. Like, at least I'm not shilling my own products over here.
Josh, you did. You shilled your I Hate LA product. We heard it. You coming out?
No, I love LA. I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking at moving down here if it just wasn't so dang expensive. But I was the anti-shill for Metro PCS and Android. That's for sure.
So yeah, what's going on, Sheems? We don't have any other questions on Facebook or YouTube right now. So what's going on, Sheems? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. And so I just jumped in here. So what do you guys think? Where is this market going? Is it a start of a bear market, or do we have something left in this bull run?
Sheems, 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. And the goal is to accumulate as many as you can. So the market is the market. It's gonna go up. It's gonna go down. But yeah, I'll let one of these traders tell you what their sentiment is.
We at the beginning, bro. We got a long way to go. We definitely ain't in a bear market, because if you compare it to any of the bear markets we've had, it doesn't look nothing like it. So, but we'll see.
I mean,
Yeah, I
I would just push just a little bit, right? Like being in a bear market doesn't automatically mean that we have to be on a decline for a year, almost a year and a half or 2 years, right? Like it can be a mini one within this whole cycle, right? Like I mean, we could be in a quote unquote bear market or trading sideways since we've broken down for 3 months. Doesn't matter, right? Jakumi, to your point, I don't think that we are entering. I mean, we can't be. Let me not use the word can, but I don't. I really don't see it like us being in this downward trend for a year and a half, like the one that most people are familiar with after 17. But I mean, again, to me, we are in bearish. We are in a bear market
Huh?
because we broke below the 21-week moving average. But that does not mean that a bull market cannot restart. Like it can be all a part of a barter cycle. Lamar, I know you said huh, but again, if we go back to 2019, we entered into a bear market once we broke below the 21-week EMA and the 20-week SMA. And we traded sideways. It was a decline. We traded sideways. We consolidated before we retested those points and moved back up. I'll give you this.
That's what I'm saying. But sideways is not bearish, right? Like to me, sideways never means bearish at all.
But it's not just that. It's the fact that we've broken down so far, right? Like if we look at traditional market, right, a bear market is time plus dropping 20% plus. I don't use that. I look at the 21-week EMA and the 20-week SMA. When we have been above those points and came back down and retested, we've been in bullish sentiment the whole time. Once we've broken below those points, right, and came back up to retest and got rejected, it has been a bearish cycle. That doesn't mean that we're going to be here for a year or 2 years, which a lot of people think. It just means that we'll be generally trending downward. You'll see lower lows, lower highs. Like that's what we're seeing, and then we consolidate some. It's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely healthy for the market because anything that goes parabolic retraces typically. Like that's what we see. That's what we have saw, and it happens throughout history. I can break down the charts. We can go into detail, but that won't be beneficial to nobody else because at the end of the day, if you are an investor, then your mindset is partially different than a person that is trading and looking for good entry and exit points. So that's it. I mean,
Yeah, you're right, Ryan.
Deflationary system, and then we'll be moving to the upside, right? It's a deflationary system. So
No.
that's the only thing that you need to worry about.
Now, let me just say this. The only reason why I say huh is because all of the technical guys, I give them a hard time. They chicken feet and use feathers and they run around in a circle and stuff to try to figure out this stuff, man. You know what I'm saying?
Well, can we say this? Is it even possible to say that as far as the habits of Bitcoin, whether being bull or bear, is it even cool that we can say it's definitely unlike an asset or a performance that we've ever seen before? Can we just say it creates its own market, like an ego market? Like this is the way that Bitcoin moves. It moves this way, and then it goes this way for a while. So you can't really predict it, though.
I mean, it's really less about being able to predict.
I just want to coin a term, Ryan. Damn it! Like, come on, like just
I can't help you with that term. Talking about ego market.
Yeah,
what the hell is that?
I can't help you with that. But I mean, we about to be flying high. Lamar is about to definitely put us on a totem pole. Huh, nephew? Huh. But I mean, like I say, anybody can go and chart this. If you look at Bitcoin from the weekly chart, that gives you the best indicators there. Don't look at it on the daily. You'll see that if we are above the 20-week SMA and we come back down and we test it, we go back up, right? And that's bullish sentiment. When we are below those points, then it has that bearish sentiment, right? And I mean, that's just it. I think too many people think about bear market again as this huge, long thing, a year and a half, 2 years, because their mind only goes back to 17, and not anything that happened before then, because those periods were a lot shorter. But anyway, we'll have a TA session one day, and we'll just look at the chart, and then we'll go from there. This is Ryan. I'm done speaking.
So you would consider this a bear market. Jakumi, you saying this is bear or bull? Or sideways?
Technically, we're sideways right now. We've been in bearish areas for the last, month or so. But if you compare it to where we started at the year, we're still in a bull market, right? So that's the way I look at it.
So bull market with bare feet.
Yeah, exactly. No. But I mean, that right there is really and truly what I'm saying. What I'm saying, you can have these many corrections and things like that happen, which is really healthy for the market, and that does not mean that we're in a long-term bear market. Like that is not what it means. And we look back to 2019. We don't have to go back far. We look back to 2019. Same thing happened before we started to resume upward. Before then, you had that downward pressure that came from the black swan, the pandemic type of thing. And then even then, what do? We wind up moving upward. We have been moving upward ever since. So this was only healthy. It's a healthy day. Anyway, we'll talk some charts one day. One day on a serious note. Y'all have fun. My nephew,
I
what's
can't
up?
wait.
You know the thing that's crazy to me though, y'all. All I know is if this price started to take off, I think there are so many coins on the sideline that we're gonna have a supply crunch. And if it starts taking off, all of those people that sold off at a loss, they're going to feel like they're missing out on the way up. And that's going to mess around and shoot the freaking price to the roof. If that happens, that's going to be crazy. Because I think there's a lot of people that have taken their coins off the exchanges. I think there are a lot of people that are moving their coins into long-term storage. And if you start looking at these billionaires who saying take 5% of your portfolio and, and buy it, they're not telling you to take 5% of your portfolio and buy it and sell it and trade it. They're telling you buy it and hold it. So if these big billionaires are starting to do that kind of thing while these prices are where they are right now, and if all it takes is a small run up where people start seeing, 5%, 8% a day, that kind of thing, I think it's going to be crazy on the way up this next time, just because I think there's not that much supply out here on these exchanges, man.
So I think we can also see on-chain metrics of the Bitcoin going from early, weak hands to strong hands, essentially. So we can also see an increase in USDT. So that usually means dry powder waiting to get in. And if that is the case, Lamar, I think you're absolutely right, is that everybody's waiting for the bottom. And as soon as we see a bottom signal, people are just going to pour in and we're going to have a V shape. And so if you're waiting to try and grab the knife at that bottom, that's a dangerous game to play.
Right. That's why it's just so much easier. Let's say this because we ain't said it much in this show. If you want to get into Bitcoin, it's way easier for you to just dollar cost average. Set it and forget it. Put in $20, whatever you can afford to lose on a weekly or monthly basis, and just let it go and don't worry about it. Those people tend to do the best because they're not sweating it, and they wind up accumulating a lot of Bitcoin that they wouldn't have had if they were just sitting watching the price trying to figure out when to jump in. So let's just make sure that if you want to get in, I ain't recommending you get in. I'm not telling you to buy right now or none of that. All I'm saying is if that's something that you want to do, the easiest way to go about doing that is to dollar cost average and to buy on a consistent interval over a period of time, because there's no way that anybody can know when the bottom's happening or the top. And the thing that Ed was talking about, where you see all of this, these coins going from weak hands into strong hands, that just shows you that we're going to get into a situation where there's not going to be enough supply for the amount of quote unquote dry powder that's sitting on the side. Because those people that sold at a loss, I guarantee they didn't take their money off the exchange. They just sitting in dollars right now, or sitting in Tether or some other stable coin, just sitting there because they don't want to take it off and put it back in their bank account. They want to keep playing around with it. So what happens is when they start seeing that pop back up, this is what happened back in November and December. When they see that price start to pop back up, what are you going to see? You're going to see a lot of people coming in at the same time, the Robin Hoods and all of these other people that are sitting around because they don't want to miss out. And that's that psychology that's hitting you. Don't be swayed by the market psychologically. If you're going to get in, just do it real simply and easily and just take a little bit of your money and put it in over a period of time, and it just makes it way more easier for you to accumulate. Man, this is good stuff. Let's see. We got Vinci. What's going on, Vinci? How you doing? There's no other messages on Facebook or YouTube. We got about 5 more minutes before I close that one up. But what's going on, Vinci? What questions you got?
Hi Lamar, how are you? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, I don't have any questions as such, but just the current market. I don't know. There are so many projects coming in, and Bitcoin doing so well. I feel that we should all just switch our assets to Bitcoin now rather than later. So that's my 2 cents. I don't have any questions as such. I've been listening to you for a long time now. Most of them get answered while you speak. So nothing for now.
Oh, well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I do have another question, you guys, on Facebook. It's actually from YouTube. Miss Stacy Mitchell said, "Do any of the mods earn interest on their BTC? If so, are there any recommended and trusted platforms? If not, why?"
Can you repeat that? What was that?
Do any of the mods earn interest on their Bitcoin? If so, are there any recommended and trusted platforms? ? And if not, why?
Well, first of all, this mod does not own any Bitcoin.
If you did own Bitcoin, would you get interest? Will you try to get interest on it, Granny?
It depends. If the company I'm trying to get interest from want me to give them my Bitcoin as collateral, I'm not going to do it. If they let me hold my Bitcoin, my private key, have total sovereignty over my Bitcoin, then I would consider getting interest. But I doubt any company out there is willing to let me hold on without them having some kind of access as collateral. So my answer is no.
Flip, there are a few platforms which are non-custodial.
Such as?
Pancake, it's just a few stable coins that you can just hold your Bitcoin with Pancake on their contract. You just need to study the Binance chain, and if you trust the chain, or there are other chains as well where you can just keep your BTC and keep earning 30, 40. It could go from like 20% a minimum to 100% depending on which platform.
I ain't never heard an exchange that'll do 20 to 200%.
No, I'm not going to trust it.
Corey, it's not an exchange, right? It's using DeFi, decentralized finance, and then you are somewhat at times either locking up those tokens and or providing liquidity.
Right. So what do they get out of the deal? That's the thing.
Still
they
no.
They get everything, and you get the risk called impermanent loss.
Yeah, that sounds like the whole seashell
That's
game.
the problem.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like choosing, I guess, the lesser of two evils in some of these senses, and then you don't even have to choose either one of them. You have DeFi, where some people wrap their tokens and then they provide liquidity. They bring BTC into decentralized finance, and or they go to a centralized platform such as a Nexo or a Celsius or something like that. Whereas you leave your coins on those platforms, you no longer have the private keys for that, and then they reward you. But then there comes like rehypothecation and stuff. So if you borrow, and then your loan to value ratio gets out of whack, they can do what's called like a margin call, where then they just basically say, okay, cool, we're going to take your crypto to repay back this loan. If that is not you and you have no intention of borrowing, that could be an option somewhat. But then again, like once things are outside of your control, they're outside of your control. And this whole industry is about being able to be self-sovereign. So if you're going to use a CeFi platform or anything like that, or even DeFi platforms, if you cannot afford to lose it and write it off as zero, I would not do it. Like that's the easiest way to say it. This is Ryan. I'm done speaking.
I'm sorry, I forgot to wait for that part before I started speaking. This
is Corey.
This is Corey, and I'm about to start speaking. I think that in a situation like that, you should just ask yourself, what would Satoshi Nakamoto do? And Satoshi Nakamoto would not do that.
What?
Why do y'all let him do this?
Because, listen.
I really want to know.
Listen. This is the Genesis Block, everyone. And I think, guess what? You know where we are right now? We are
on fire.
Yeah, we are coming to a close on the Genesis Block for YouTube and Facebook. It is amazing to have this wonderful conversation with such amazing people. And we want you guys to tune in every Monday at 11 o'clock on Facebook, YouTube. Wherever you can find me, you can find the Genesis Block. Also, make sure you tune in every day to the Gentlemen of Crypto at 10 o'clock a.m. with Bitcoin Zay and King Bless. They're going to give you your Bitcoin news, your cryptocurrency news. They talk about the whole thing, and they're the longest running show in the game. So thank y'all, man. Appreciate you. Listen, I want y'all to do one thing for me, and that's to live love and to love life. If you live love, you'll love your life. And until next time, I see y'all in the